Hey, hello, I'm JulieJo. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. You can hit the like button if you enjoy this video. You can hit the subscribe button if you want to subscribe to my channel where I focus on scams, pyramid schemes, talk about multi-level marketing companies, breaking down income disclosure statements, breaking down different trainings that they do and the manipulation that goes on in them. And if you want to get notified when I post, feel free to hit the bell button. If you're not new here, welcome back. Today is an exciting video because I interviewed someone who was in the top 1% of paparazzi. Before I continue, don't forget to follow my social medias. I am walkin_on_Lexapro and all of my social media platforms. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. Those are the only two that I really have other than YouTube. So today you're going to meet Kirstie. She is incredible, by the way. I had such a fun time in this interview. She is so sweet and she is very informative. She just gives us a crazy interesting view into the top 1% of paparazzi. If you don't know what paparazzi is, it is a jewelry MLM, and in this MLM the jewelry is like $5 or so and you sell it online, usually during lives. There has been some about paparazzi in the anti-multi-level marketing community, and there has been lead and nickel found in some of their jewelry, even though they said they are lead and nickel free. We will actually talk a little bit about that during this interview, and I hope that you enjoy it. I am so grateful that Kirstie was willing to have this conversation. She reached out to me and I was more than happy to give her this platform. So give her some hype in the comments, and thank you for watching. Let's get to Kirstie. Thank you for joining today. I'm so happy that you're here. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Kirstie Flickinger, and I am a former paparazzi representative. Sometimes we think our MLMs like define us, but we're so much more than that. But so I live in Wisconsin. I moved here about a year ago. I have two little kiddos. I have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old. I stay at home mom for pretty much all their life. I just got a part-time job. My husband works out of the home, and I don't know, we love it here in Wisconsin. We moved from Iowa, so it's a little more scenic here.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. I love what you said, like we're more than just our MLM, you know. I think that's totally true, and I'm so excited that you reached out to me to have a conversation, and I just wanted to give you my platform to share your story. I love hearing people's stories about their MLM, and I want to ask you what your story is. Please tell us about your entrance into the MLM. How did that happen? Because you just told me earlier you were in there for 5 years, so I'm sure there's a lot in there, and how you left.
Sure. Okay, well, I'm going to try to condense this as much as I can. So I joined 5 years ago, Paparazzi. Sorry, I don't know if my lighting keeps going in and out for you, but so I joined Paparazzi Accessories 5 years ago. I was just had my first child, my little boy, and it was about a month later, and I was just struggling with loneliness. I realized later that it was postpartum depression as well. But my friend group, I guess you would say, just kind of like up and left me, ghosted me. And we had a whole bunch of issues with like that church family. But anyway, so I just felt super alone, and I didn't know where my place was, I guess. So I was up late one night scrolling Facebook, and I saw my coworker on Facebook Live selling jewelry. And I got really excited because she looked like she was having fun. She was selling a ton of jewelry on her couch, you know, and I was just like, this is interesting. And something interesting, side note, by the way, that I didn't like connect the dots, but I did Amway in high school, and like I didn't know what MLM was. I didn't even think about paparazzi being an MLM. Kind of like the same structure as Amway was in high school, which was a horrible experience. That's another story. But so I saw my coworker selling paparazzi, and I reached out to her, asked her like, hey, can I do something like this? I talked to my husband, thought about it for several days, and then I just jumped the gun and purchased a starter kit a couple days later after doing research. And interesting note is I like scoured through YouTube, Google. Like I wanted to know everything about paparazzi, and there was really no negative remarks at that time, which is, I'm kind of thankful for this movement now, because I think that more information is out there now for people who are looking for information like I was. But anyway, so I bought a starter kit, and long story short, I experienced quite a bit of success through paparazzi. My first party, I sold out of all my jewelry, and a week later, somebody wanted to join my team. So I had my first team member, honestly, before I even knew what the heck I was doing. So of course that was exciting to me at the time, because I'm like, oh, this is confirmation that this is what I was meant to do. So just real quick stats. So I joined in 2018. I hit the top 1% in 2020, which is producer. Which really only is like the middle of the compensation plan, honestly. So it's interesting that like now that I understand compensation plans and that kind of thing, it's a little concerning. But anyway, so I hit that rank in 2020. I've the past 3 years, I was almost 6 figures in sales alone. However, after doing my taxes and seeing how much I spent on jewelry, it was literally disgusting to me, the actual profit that I made. So I had great sales, but I was buying a lot of jewelry as well. Sorry if I look down, I'm just looking at my notes. So I sold a lot of jewelry, had a good sized team. I had a lot of success, but it was at the expense of my time. I had no time, absolutely no time. I was a stay-at-home mom with my 2 kids, and I was literally constantly stressed out. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I was just always stressed. There was always something to do. When I was with my family, I felt guilty that I wasn't working. When I was like working my business, I felt guilty because I should have been with my family. I just never really could find this life paparazzi balance. And I think now looking back on it, it's because you can't just turn it off. An MLM, you can't just turn it off. And so I struggled constantly with just feeling like I was needed by everyone and everything, and I just couldn't get out of it. So I think that's about it. I can kind of turn into how I left. So this all started after the convention. The convention, paparazzi convention, was end of July, beginning of August. And I had a great time with my girls there. I had fun. I was away from my kids, which was kind of, a good vacation, I guess. I searched myself and my heart a little bit, quite a lot actually, because I had a lot more time when I was there without needing to tend to my family and all the stuff like that. But anyway, when we left convention, you're on the high, whatever, was ready to conquer the world. And then all of this stuff came out about, I'm not going to use the pandemic because I know you could get like demonetized or whatever, but people lost their lives as a result. And from my experience, a lot of people did not wear masks. So the mask mandate was not enforced as much as it could have been, in my opinion. So anyway, that kind of led to this movement from these 2 particular people who started talking about paparazzi, doing videos. I was watching in the background. Mainly it was because I was a leader. I was one of the top leaders on my uplines team. So I was in her leadership group. I was in charge of a lot of training for her entire team and all of that. And so we needed to be informed of what was happening, but we were specifically told not to draw attention to it. Just know what's happening, so you know how to address it if somebody brings something up later. So I was watching every one of these, and every single one of them was exposing something to me. Like, for example, I was hearing stories of just how consultants were being treated unfairly, being canceled for ridiculous reasons when other consultants were still consultants. The profit margin really wasn't as good as as they say it is after you factor in taxes, expenses, all of those things. Things I knew because I had done my taxes for 4 years, right? But in my mind, because I think of the mindset that I was in, I was proud that I made $30,000 or whatever it was, those years. But then this year, I'm like disgusted by that number because I think now I know how much time I spent, which equates to the paycheck that I received. So all of these things were just being exposed, brought to light for me. And I was honestly concerned by the lack of concern by other consultants. The last thing that kind of was like the straw in the camel's back, or so to speak, whatever that saying is, was that Paparazzi removed lead and nickel free from their website. So my entire 5 years, I was under the impression that this jewelry was lead and nickel free. Told my customers that every single live, and it was, these people did the training and exposed that it actually is not lead and nickel free. And Paparazzi did not say a word. They just removed that phrase from their website, and we didn't hear anything for weeks. So me as a leader, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know how to help my team. I didn't know, honestly, how I even handle this, because I brought this up with my leadership group and they just did not seem concerned. And I'm like, this is a big deal. I don't know why, I didn't know if I was overreacting or what, but I'm like, they are lying. They lied about this. And they haven't provided proof otherwise. And so at that moment, that was the moment that I'm like, if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? I just, all of it just came crashing down at that point. So I went live. I gave in I mailed in or emailed my resignation, and I went live on Facebook and told my customers why I went live. I have a rather large following, and I should mention this. One of my uplines told me, because I had a meeting with her, and, I just I felt like God was leading me somewhere else. And I still feel that way. And so she's like, okay, just say that. You don't have to mention anything else. And I'm like, okay. So I went live and I told everything. I told them my reasons for leaving. Most of it was personal with me. I just, Paparazzi had a lot of rules. You cannot do anything pretty much other than Paparazzi. That doesn't work for me. I like different business ventures. I have 3 going right now. So I didn't like being put in a box, I guess, so to speak. So there were other reasons as well. But then I shared the lead and nickel thing as well. And my best friend, accountability partner, BFF4L, the one who said that she'd support me through everything, did not talk to me for over a month. And I knew this was going to happen because of what you guys talk about how you leave and you're dropped like that. And, and I was like, okay, but she's different. And that, I'm not bashing her. I'm just giving my experience. But that was not my experience. Unfortunately, she did not talk to me for a month. We were able to talk it out, kind of, get it resolved, but it's never going to be the same. And that breaks my heart because, again, I started due to the loneliness, due to the lack of community, and I'm leaving without this community. And I was scared to leave because I had that community, but not at the expense of what I had to continue to do. And I just ethically, morally could not do it anymore. So that's pretty much my story. So now I just, I still have my business. I just make my own jewelry now, make my own things, and have an LLC. And that's basically it.
That's awesome. I was like, I was muted because I didn't want an echo to happen, because I kept saying oh yeah, cool. And I could hear myself. I was like, oh, it's probably an echo. So I was talking back here, I swear. But I wanted to ask you, you talked about, first off, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure it's a lot deeper than you just shared. I'm sure, because it's 5 years of your life, but thanks for letting us I'll listen to your story, the glimpse of it that you gave us. I wanna start by asking, you said you spent a lot of time and like profited $30,000. How much time? Like, what did a day in your life look like as a stay-at-home mother and someone who's in paparazzi, who was a leader of a team, who was in leadership, top 1%? What did that look like for you?
So a lot of my things were done at night, which was also a part of the reason why I left, because every night was devoted to paparazzi and I missed my family, quite honestly. So a normal day, I'd be home with my kids and, we'd have our morning breakfast time. They would get some TV time. So we had about an hour where screen time, whatever, where they would get to watch a movie. I would work during that hour, ship packages, do a picture sale, whatever it may be. Then we would go spend time together. Then it would be lunchtime. We'd have lunch together. Nap time, I worked over their entire nap, which was usually about 2 hours. And honestly, though, while I'm playing with them, I'm on my phone. I was posting pictures for sale. I was, responding to messages. I'd be working during that entire 2 hours. At the time when I was with them, I was also, working on my phone, answering customers' questions, whatever, doing picture sales, responding to sold comments, sending invoices, that kind of thing. So just off and on with my time with my kids. And then in the evening, I was either going live or doing a meeting every night. So I went live selling jewelry 3 to 4 times a week for an hour to 2.5 hours. And then the other 2 or 3 nights, I was doing either a meeting with my team, a training with my team, or an upper training with my, uplines team in the leadership group. So that's pretty much a typical day, I guess.
So you're telling me you worked 7 days a week. It sounds like you
Mhm.
do work every day. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask, because for me personally, you probably know I was in an MLM, and I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. I never felt like I was fully present, like with either thing almost. Like I was thinking about MLM if I was with my family, or I was thinking about my family if I was doing my MLM. So did you ever feel that way?
All the time. All the time. And I think that was the most overwhelming part for me, is because I just felt like I couldn't get away from it. And especially, because there are, those team members that need a little bit more attention than others, and customers. And, obviously, like me owning my own business now, I still have to handle those kind of customers that need attention, but I can turn it off, and I just felt like, and I feel like this isn't a rule, in the MLM, they're not like, okay, you have to answer your team members right away, but that stigma is put on you. And I just felt that pressure, especially being a top leader. And honestly, like one of the things that I really struggled with was, like I wanted to be, they call it elite in paparazzi, one of the big dogs. You get to go on a, elite summit, whatever. Part of me, I wasn't pushing for it as hard as I think I could, because I saw that the time freedom is actually even worse up there. So I'm like, I don't even want to go there, because if I'm feeling this pressure now, I can't imagine what it's like when I'm elite, So yeah, I completely struggled with that. And since I left in January, at the end of January, and I was just talking to my husband about it now, that I feel like 100 pounds lighter, because I am able to be present with my family and not be worried about posting a picture sale or doing a team training or something like that. And then when it's work time, I can focus on working,
Yeah, that was a huge, weird change for me. Being able to be present exactly where I was. What do you, so you mentioned just a second ago, a little bit about, you feel like a weight lifted off, right? You feel really light. I guess, what is the difference now versus then? Like, now you actually run a jewelry business that's yours, and you make the jewelry. what do you feel are the differences between the MLM jewelry company that you're with and yours?
That's a good question. I feel like the biggest thing is like, I think it's fear mongering. If that's it, like there was just a constant pressure of if you don't invest in your team, they're going to leave. If you don't go live, they will go to another consultant. If you don't show up all of the time, they will find somebody else. And I train that to my team because it is kind of true. There are some people that are like just literally addicted to this jewelry. And if you don't go live, they'll go to somebody else. So a part of that is true. But I feel like it's, there's too much pressure on you to constantly be present to see results. And I understand that now as a business owner, like, I know that I'm doing myself a disservice because I haven't been live 3 nights a week anymore. And I see the result of less sales because of that. However, I also see how much happier I am, how much less pressure I have. And it's just, I'm just growing my business on my own time, if that makes sense, instead of feeling like I am pressured to have to show up to grow my business. Does that make sense? Is that even helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think a big thing is the team part of it. That's something that I struggled with a lot. Personally, I could get my stuff done. I could get my stuff done, but I wasn't always great at helping my team get their stuff done. And I want to ask, like, what was your experience with your team? Did you experience success while people experienced not success? I guess is a good way to ask that. And did you ever have a teammate question you, like why is this not happening for me, but it's happening for you? I experienced that, and I just want to hear that from your side. You might not have, but just wondering.
Yeah, no, definitely I have. So the team was the hardest aspect for me, if I'm honest. Like, I don't want to sound rude, but like I was a manager at a bank, in charge of like a call center. And I just felt like I was babysitting. And I kind of felt like that here, that I am in charge of, people who may or may not, I don't know, like want to be there, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I feel like sometimes I was making them do things that they didn't want to do to achieve results that like I saw. I also know now that like my results, like my sales, that's not what everybody achieves, right? We all are on different paces. We have different, audiences to begin with. Some are more, backgrounds put together, whatever. I don't know. So yeah, I can think of one team member in particular who's actually my friend, and we actually still talk, which is so good because that usually doesn't happen. But she messaged me, and this was, I don't even know, 6-7 months ago. And she just told me that she's leaving. She's tried everything that I've suggested. She's just not selling the jewelry, and she doesn't know what else to do. And I was like, okay, I understand. And she had told me previously, because she had wanted to quit before. And I said, let's just give it one more shot. Let's do, weekly meetings for about a month and see if I can help. Because my heart has always been to have people see success. Like, I didn't care about the money, and I just wanted people, like for me in particular, I wanted to stay home with my kids, and this allowed me to. This allowed me, my husband, to be able to leave his job that was like mentally, physically draining for him. It's obviously at the expense, of my time. But I wanted my team members who joined for similar reasons to see similar results. So I just basically told them what I did and say, just do this. And then they didn't always get the same results. And so if I'm honest, in my head, I didn't understand, I guess, what I mean? Like you see all of these videos of people telling you what to do. And if you don't see those results, you must not have done it right. Like, I don't think that was the case. However, I may have thought that at some points in my leadership role, which makes me disgusted, honestly. But yeah.
I'm the same way. I definitely thought that at some points. There was a moment, and I want to know if you ever have this moment or not. You don't have to say yes if you didn't. There was a moment where I was sitting there going, and I had just qualified for the top 2% of Arbonne. It had just happened. And I thought it was going to be a bigger moment than it was. It wasn't, because I had the team under me questioning certain things of like, okay, you're hitting this, but I'm not hitting anything. Did you ever have a moment where you went, I call it like the choice moment, where you choose and realize, okay, I realize now that it's very likely that the majority of people won't succeed. But if I continue, I know that I can, and that they just won't, no matter if I tell them that they will or will not. Like, it's just not possible for them to, no matter how hard they try, just because of business structure. I had that moment, and that's when I made the choice to leave. But I feel like a lot of people make the choice to stay or go, and they realize it. Did you ever have a moment like that where you went, this might not be possible for everyone just because it's not working how they say it works?
Yeah. I feel like that probably didn't come till after I decided to leave. So I think the sad part for me, like when I think about that question, is if I saw somebody succeeding, that weighed more on me than seeing the 2, 3, 4, 5 people that aren't selling anything, if that makes sense. Like, maybe that was, I think there's like a term for it where you see what you want to see, but I felt like, oh, okay, so that person is exceeding her sale goal, or she hit her sales goal, or whatever it was. And that was very big for me on my team, is I wanted to see my team members win. So, we'd be checking in and they'd tell me how their stats were and that kind of thing. So I feel like the forefront of my mind was on the team members that were doing not well, but because well is different for every person, right? Like, this person wanted to sell 30 pieces, this person wanted to sell 100. Like, it's relative. But I think because I was seeing people winning, I didn't notice per se how many people were not winning. And towards the end, though, it became more aware to me, especially because a lot of my team was leaving. Or I just went into my back office, and I sponsored, I don't have access to it anymore, but I sponsored almost 60 personal team members and had an organization of 100. So most of them were personal to me. But I looked at my dashboard and it also said only 5 of my 60 are active, right? Because the 60 is my overall in 5 years. And so I think at that moment towards the end, I'm like, I had 60 people and now I only have 5. That's a little concerning that number is not higher, if that makes sense. So I think I did have that moment, but it was like right as I was leaving, like, final confirmation, all of these things were coming together. But in the moment, I just focused on those winning, and it kind of gave me confirmation to continue to be the leader to them, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I want to ask, maybe turn this a little different way. How often did you order jewelry? Because I know that I think they came out with new stuff every week, right? I'm pretty sure that's how Paparazzi works. And how much jewelry were you selling versus buying? We talked a little bit about how you were disgusted at the end of your time Paparazzi by how much you actually profited and what that looked like. Could you maybe give us insight on maybe how much you were buying? Was it weekly? Was it monthly? Was it daily? What does that look like? And how much were you selling versus purchasing?
Sure. That's a really good question. So they they came out with new jewelry every day, Monday through Friday. It dropped at 2 p.m. Central. And this is a really funny story, actually. So Wednesday was like dollar margarita days, and my husband and I, we took like a lunch date anyway, and it was 2 o'clock. And I'm like, Caleb, I would be ordering jewelry right now. I'm so glad that I'm not. But anyway, and
I
he's
love
like,
that.
yeah.
Love that so much.
But yeah, so 2 o'clock every day, you were like on your phone ready to order jewelry. And I order almost every day.
I did not know it was every day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, is that every day? Every day, Monday through Friday, which like as a representative, like I loved, now looking back, I see why they did it that way. And I don't know how to explain it. And unless you're a paparazzi rep, like I feel like you wouldn't understand. But I would be on my phone to order, even if I didn't want to order that day. I had I was very strict with myself, though. I did not buy if I did not have money. So if I wanted to buy new jewelry, I had to sell new jewelry. I was very strict about that because I did not join to go into debt. So
that's great, though. That's good.
Yeah. So I trained my team pretty hard on that. And also just because what are we going to do with jewelry just sitting in our garage, right? Like I didn't purchase jewelry to have it hang up on the shelf or whatever. So yeah, I would not purchase jewelry if I didn't have the money. However, because I sold a lot of jewelry, typically I would sell between 200 to 350 pieces every week. So I had money, constantly in my PayPal for the most part. But 2 o'clock came and you had to know what was coming. Like this is the part that like I feel like every paparazzi rep will understand. I think it was FOMO, honestly, like looking back, like that's all it was. And it's very,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's completely like it works because I would get on there at 2 o'clock just to see what they had. And there was always a piece that I'm like, oh, I have to have that. And the thing about paparazzi, the culture about paparazzi, you had to order it super quick because it sells out like within seconds sometimes, like the hot pieces like oil spill or inspirational bracelets. If it sells out, like you add it to your cart and it sells out, it gets taken away from your cart. So there was a huge emphasis to order quickly, which looking back on it now, that kind of negates your thinking process. Like I didn't have time to, I feel like logically say, no, Kirstie, you don't need that today. Like my brain was just like, cute bracelet, go, And so I would purchase almost every day, even if I didn't need to. And, so when I left paparazzi, I have had 6,000 pieces of jewelry in my inventory. I still have about 3,000 left. I never went into debt with any of it. Like my sales purchased all of it. However, I was just telling one of my old team members, I was just talking to her. I'm like, don't buy it if you don't need it. Okay. Like so towards the end, I hid my phone at 2 o'clock and I wouldn't let myself look at new releases because I don't know how to explain it, but my brain was conditioned that every day at 2 o'clock, you go, you buy jewelry, you buy as much as you can, and you get out of there. And that's what I did. So,
yeah, I see a lot of that kind of thing in MLMs, a lot of fear of missing out, a lot of very overwhelming moments. It's like, you have to get this, you have to do this. Like for Arbonne, it was fist sticks. It was like, oh, a new fist stick flavor coming out. So people would buy 20 boxes and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on fizz sticks. So yeah, it's pretty intense. Okay, I want to ask about anti-MLM, and when you watched it and when you were watching it, and I mean, I'm guessing you still watch it because you were on my live. That's how we came across each other. What stood out to you the most? What were some things that you went, whoa, that is definitely something that's going on, or that's definitely something I've experienced? Because one of the reasons I got out was, other than a few things piling up, I think kind of how you said was I watched anti-MLM videos and I said, oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's accurate. I feel like I kind of stepped out of an echo chamber you know, and heard it from a different perspective. So what were some things that stood out to you while, even today, while you're watching and you went, yep, that's accurate?
So that's a good question. And I feel like it's really interesting because every time I watch a video, you know, by you or Cece or, you know, whoever, I'm constantly nodding my head. Like, yes, that's true. That happened. So I feel like the things that stick out the most to me, and the reason I like, you know, offer to share my story with you is because I think I'm disgusted, honestly, with myself. Well, obviously the industry, because that's what's wrong here. But like I was in it, so I played a role. But the 1% essentially success rate. While I was in the industry, I feel like I I didn't know that many people did not succeed. I genuinely believed that I could help people make money with paparazzi, you know, and my heart has always been to see people succeed, to give them why did they join, and let me help you. Like I genuinely wanted to help people. But most of them did not achieve what they wanted to achieve. And I think that that's the part that disgusts me the most, is because even no matter how much desire I had for them to succeed, the model does not allow that to happen. And so I think that that's the reason I feel so passionately about it now, because there are alternatives to help them get what they want, you know, whether that's to stay at home and have an income with their you know, to be able to stay home with their family or get community, that kind of thing. I feel like it's so prevalent that the answer is MLM, but the numbers do not show that at all. It actually shows the opposite. And I think that's what breaks my heart overall, is because people are joining with the hope. And obviously, some people that are featured, they know what they're doing and they're doing it on purpose. They're selling the lifestyle. Some people, like myself, I feel like I didn't try to do that. However, I was still leading people in to an industry that just would not work for them. And so every time that's brought up, I just nod my head. And so that's why I feel passionate about shedding light to this movement, essentially. So that let me think. There was a couple other things. Oh, also, the thing that makes me the most mad is when people say you just didn't work hard enough. That is a complete and utter lie, and literally makes my blood boil, because like, for example, you know, this has been our sole income for the past year. My husband left his job. Paparazzi was it for us. And my taxes reported $28,000. I worked my booty off, like day, sun up, sun down. I was working so hard. And still, like, that's a good amount of money. Some people don't even make $100, you know, working all day long. And so that is what like makes me so mad when somebody says that, because you can have the best intentions to make money, whether it's, you know, whatever, growing your team, whatever they want to do in the industry, but they quit due to lack of results, right? So so I'm very passionate about that one now too, because we are worth our time, and MLMs do not pay us what our time is worth. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that breaks my heart, because they're doing all the things, as they would say, but they're not seeing the results. So that energy could be spent elsewhere, but they just don't know it, most of them. So
I think it hurts a sense of self as well, like that they feel like they don't have the ability. I think that was a big thing for me. I was a lot like you in the sense that I wasn't one of those people at the, you know, close to the top that were like, okay, I know what's going on. You know, once I realized, I left. Now I the same as you, I did, you know, get people in, I brought people into this model, and there's a couple people, not many, but a few that were on my team that are still in it. even after everything that, I'm doing on here. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I respect them and I care for them. And if they ever leave and need my help, obviously I'm here. And I'm sure that, you feel the same way. But that, that what you're saying is so true. Like the moment where you sit and realize that these people are trying so hard and doing everything that you're talking about, but they can't see the results because it's not possible with the structure. It's heartbreaking to think about that because it's very much hurting their self-esteem and who they are and making them think that they just don't have the ability, when in reality that's not true. They have the ability, but the odds are completely stacked against them 100%, and there's no way around it. So thank you for sharing that with us so much. I wanted to ask you this, and you don't have to answer, but did you ever have a run-in with someone who was anti-multi-level marketing when you were in an MLM? No,
not really.
Not really. Do you? I want to ask you, why do you think the people in the people who are in MLMs say the anti-MLM community are bullies and haters and they don't know anything? When, you said earlier, the numbers show, facts show, what we're saying is true, that sort of thing. I want to know, why do you think they say that kind of thing? You're fresh out of an MLM for the most part, and it's been a while since I've been in one, and the anti-MLM community has definitely grown a lot bigger since I've started. So you've seen it from different eyes than I have. Why do you think they say that?
Okay, so I think that's a really good question. I might have to think about my answer a little more, but the first one that comes off of my head is I just feel like they don't want to be told anything different, if that makes sense. So I feel like it's similar to you just believe one thing and somebody's telling you something different and you just immediately become defensive. But anyway, so it's like you could talk about whatever. And if somebody disagrees with you, I feel like a wall just immediately comes up. At least that's how it is for me. You just immediately become defensive, especially if it's something that you genuinely believe is going to give you time freedom or, give you more money. Like, you're just like, no, like this, I've already mentally accepted that if I put in the work, this will happen. And you're telling me otherwise, and I don't want to believe it. So I think that that's the first thing that comes to my mind about why they call anti-MLM haters, because initially you may think that they are dissing you or your abilities, opposed to like it has nothing to do with them, right? It has everything to do with the business model, but I think it gets taken personally.
Yes, feels very
to where
personal.
they think that we are saying that you exactly. Yeah. So I think that that's about all I got. I can think about something else too, but
okay, Kirstie, did you feel like you had to be positive 100% of the time? Like, did you feel like you couldn't share things with your downline or your upline? Go ahead and explain how you felt.
Yeah, 120%. And if you ask any of my team members, like I wasn't perfect. I ghosted them for a while because I cannot pretend to be okay. So I just didn't show up at all. I'm like, sorry guys, like I'm just not doing well this week. I'll check in with you next week. Because I feel like being able to share my feelings, and I feel like I didn't really have anybody I could share my feelings with. Like my honest feelings, like I had my accountability partner, and I felt like I could be, pretty honest with her. But it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it. She felt the same, but we both like felt like we couldn't leave, if that makes sense. And she's still in it, and she probably will be for a while, a long time, until she's able to mentally put these pieces together. And that's, it's on her timing. But I felt like I could not like, for example, shipping with Paparazzi was backed up to almost 6 weeks. And like my team members would ask me like, what's going on with shipping? This sucks. And I would explain to my accountability partner, like, we are okay. I'm okay because I have 6,000 pieces of jewelry. But this new person that just started yesterday has to wait a month and a half to get her product. Like, how is she going to be successful off the bat, you know?
Wow.
And in our team pages, like, nobody could talk negative about shipping. And like, I understand because there's literally nothing that I could do about it. But in a way, you're silencing their experience. And that's just not right. That's not right. So my fault, I guess, would be that when I was not doing well, I just kind of took a step back because I couldn't just go live and pretend that I was fine. And my entire, 5 years, I was questioning different aspects of it. Or like, I don't know, this is kind of maybe a weird coincidence, but every time it was that like time of month for me, I wanted to quit Paparazzi, like every single time for 5 years. And I thought like, this is super weird, but I feel like it was kind of like my body's, like, I don't know, my body's kind of way of like,
yeah, your hormones were like allowing the real feelings to be
this
like,
is how I feel.
You can't drop them anymore.
Exactly. And like, during those times, I didn't feel well. So I took a break from my business. And I feel like because I was able to stop and think, what am I feeling? Every time, excuse me, I have hiccups. Every time I realize like this, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I'd, be back up and on it and working not 24/7. I'd work probably about 8 to 9 hours a day. So I would, work all day, not have time to think about it, go to bed, and simultaneously taking care of your house. So anyway, all of that long-winded conversation to say, I think that we just don't take the time to think about how we're feeling in the moment. And that's also what keeps us in there longer. So
what I think what you said was super interesting. When you said I had time to stop and think, because personally, when I took a break from Arbonne was when I finally was able to stop and think. And it's like, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but like stepping out of that echo chamber, just like, it's like stepping out of the room that you're in while you're working your MLM and doing everything. And you were able to stop and think. Did you feel like when you were in your MLM that you had moments of things popping into your head, but you pushed them out because you knew you had to? Like you mentioned, like you wanted to quit, but you pushed them out because you knew you had to. And then when you stopped and took a break, you were actually able to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, for example, like Paparazzi or inventory loading MLMs, I think are more at risk for this because we deal with selling, shipping, all of those things. So it's not just, like other companies. I don't know, doTERRA. I don't know whatever companies don't have inventory, they just take them to their website. They may have a little bit more time also to think. They still don't, there's still some aspects that I feel like you don't have time to think, but I think it's especially prevalent in inventory-based businesses because I spent a ton of time selling, like 10 hours minimum a week live, selling the jewelry, shipping the jewelry, organizing the jewelry, which never happened in 5 years, by the way. Always looked like a tornado went through my house. But yeah, I think in those base businesses too, it's extra hard because you're not only dealing, with growing your team, growing your business online, your social media presence, but you're also spending that time physically selling, shipping product and that kind of thing.
Did you ever feel like there was a religious aspect to it? I don't know if you're religious, but did you feel like there was ever a crossover between your religion and your MLM business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like it happened at convention every time. It was convention.
Wow, okay.
So like I felt like it wasn't, pressed on a lot. Like, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus. But I feel like it wasn't like pressed on by my upline or, like God called you here, whatever. But at the conferences, like the first one, for example, I remember going to it and they talked about God placed you here. God has called you to help these people out of their financial situations. God has called you to be a light onto the earth, that kind of thing. I remember specifically leaving my first conference and telling my husband, like, this is so much more than jewelry. Like, I remember saying that. And I said that so much on my lives because, again, I constantly wanted to help people be successful. I wanted them to succeed at this, And so I remember leaving there thinking, like, I'm not just selling jewelry, like I'm giving hope to people. I can, share Jesus with people, or I can, be the vehicle that gets them to where they want to go, because this is more than jewelry. So interestingly, after you asked that question, it happened. I've only been to two physical in-person conferences, and they happened at both of those, where God was definitely brought up, that we were meant to be there. We were, divinely placed to help people get into paparazzi, to help them get out of their financial situations or have community, have friendships. It was definitely manipulated there. So that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So this is the first time I've interviewed someone who's been in an MLM. I've been interviewed a lot, and I'm used to being interviewed, but I've never interviewed someone. So I'm sure there are some questions that I missed. But I want to ask you, what do you want people to know who are maybe watching? And because I'm sure some people in paparazzi are going to hop on and watch this video. And I know there's a lot of people who are not pro MLM that are going to watch this. So for those that are in an MLM, that are in paparazzi or not, and maybe another MLM, what do you wish for them to know? You want them to stop right now. This is the one thing you want them to get out of this interview. What do you want them to know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Think about it for a moment if you need to. I know it's pretty intense.
So I think the biggest thing is, and honestly, like, if you were my old team members or my upline, like, this is not a personal attack on you or our experience together. Part of, my fear of speaking out was hurting someone's feelings, because I genuinely care about people and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But what I would say is that there are other ways to make money. And I feel like when you are in the MLM, you don't want to accept any other ways. Like, for example, a job is kind of like taboo, like a 9 to 5. Like, even myself, I remember my husband told me that I should consider getting a job. And I'm like, no, I will never get a job. And I didn't mean it in any kind of, I didn't mean to be rude about it, but I was just like, I'm not going to do it anymore, And I think that so much negative energy is put onto jobs or 9 to 5s, or doing anything else that could support your income. And from my experience, and I was in the industry for 5 years, and I even had a lot of, quote unquote success. So I can only imagine my team members who maybe didn't even profit anything in the year. But something that was interesting to me was when I did a cost analysis, and I said, okay, how much money did I actually make versus how much time I put into it? And it was less than minimum wage, even after selling 350 pieces a week. And that's not okay. There, like, you are worth more than that. Yes, the freedom of being able to stay home is great, but I just found a part-time job that I can work from my home on the computer 4 hours a day, and it's guaranteed pay, So I just want those in an MLM to know that there are other ways to make money, and that like, your MLM does not own you, okay? And that you will be okay. venturing off and doing something different that guarantees you pay for your time. I think that that is my biggest regret, is that I just spent so much time for what, like it supported my family, and I'm grateful for that. But when you look at the how much you're getting paid an hour, it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think what you said was excellent. Like that MLM does not own you, and it's okay to step out. Thank you, Kirstie, for sharing and being a part of this interview. I know it's probably never anticipated yourself being here like 5 years ago. But I know that this interview and what you said is going to help people. It's going to be a voice of reason that many can't get elsewhere, because their surrounding is MLM. And I know it's going to clear the air for some people, like the fog that their eyes are covered from, it's like a room full of MLM, just people just talk. But when they hear someone who's not, or who has been in an MLM say, well, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, and they go, oh, me too. It's a big deal. So what you're doing here and sharing your story, while I'm sure it's nerve-wracking, it was for me, and you sit here and you think about the people who might see it. It's so much more than you could ever imagine, and it's going to do so much more than you could ever imagine, really.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for letting me share my story.
Of
and
course.
Yeah, thanks for just shedding light on these topics, because I was never anti-MLM. Honestly, I didn't give them any thought. I think that was just kind of the atmosphere, is just don't acknowledge, the anti-MLM movement, like just don't even pay attention to it. So I didn't really have any negative connotation going into it. I just didn't know. But now I'm so thankful, because like everything that is mentioned is true. Like you guys bring up so many good points, and it's backed up by facts, which I appreciate and find interesting, that there's never facts on the other side.
Yeah. Again, just thank you so much. And I just encourage people watching this, like, let Kirstie know how amazing she is. I seriously, like, in the comments, because this is not an easy thing to do. Thank you so much, Kirstie. Again, I know I've said thank you like 100 times, but we appreciate you being on. I hope to have you on again, and I'm happy to be able to share my audience with you and be able to share your story through my platforms. We appreciate you, and I hope to chat soon.
Thank you. Thanks for the time. Thanks for listening.
Bye, Kirstie.
Bye.